Anthrature of the Bloody Point. So, as you can see, I died horribly in my my first attempt at the Chemochamber. As mentioned in the previous video, I was doing this with low-tier weapons. Generally, you would do this with much better equipment.
Are you awake? You probably lost everything in your inventory except whatever you have in your secure slots. Recover the items left where you died before somebody else finds them first.
So on the hardcore server, you do not have the secure slots. If you die, everything in your inventory drops on the ground to be looted, as mentioned by other players. So there is some time pressure on a populated active server to get back to your body and loot yourself. This case, that's not too much of a concern, so I'm taking some time to look at the various skill trees. The skill trees are one of the areas of progression in Dysterra, and they're split up into 3 categories: survival, resources, and combat. Each of them does a variety of things which can improve your performance. So, for example, in the case of resources, if you put skill points into the metal line, you'll increase the yield of your harvesting, as mentioned earlier, and also the speed if you invest in that. For weapons and armor, it's generally the durability hit that you take through use and death, and then you also have some for the conditions which you can be hit with, such as radiation and bleeding, to mitigate that somewhat. So as was clear, even though I prepared in the previous episode a sleeping bag, I did not put it down. So I respawned back on my base. And I also did not prepare alternate gear sets for, recovery if I need to go out and loot. I've played these games a long time, and gear bags and such, it's pretty much a standard procedure, but not worrying about death. I didn't really anticipate the need, so I did not prepare those, so we're going to have to go and get our stuff back. I did have a spare weapon, actually, of course, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. In this case, there aren't any other players active at this time, but if there were, that would be a whole different story. Running out with no armor, no consumables, and so on would be problematic. Sounds do travel pretty far. You can hear sound from pretty far away. So if somebody were, nearby and aware that somebody was doing the Chemochamber, you would expect to meet some competition, but I'm not too concerned about that here. Although in another attempt at a different facility, which I'll have a video for soon, there was someone else doing it at the time, and that was a bit interesting. So hopefully I didn't die too far inside and I can get my stuff back. This weapon is actually of a higher tier than the one I was using, so it's a bit more effective at killing the enemy. Different dynamics, of course, but it's of a better quality. So what I'm going to want to do is get inside, loot my stuff quickly, come back out, take the sleeping bag I didn't place, put it down so that if I die again, that I don't have to go back to base. I did use a lot of consumables, and I'm probably going to want to re-equip before attempting it again. Okay, fortunately, I didn't die too far inside, and there were no mobs camping my stuff. So one thing I really like, even though it's probably not intentional, you notice that when I went from the darkened interior of the base through the door to the outside, there was this graphical effect where you couldn't really see. Everything was very, very dark outside. That's actually, a real thing in real life when you go from a dark inside to a bright outside. I don't think that's an intentional mechanic that they put together, but it does give a similar effect, and it is quite cool. I do like that. Okay, so have my sleeping bag down, and now my inventory is a mess. I have to reslot everything. I'm going to speed that up here. The inventory management, it's an interesting part of the game in that you want to take consumables of different types and ammunition of different types and pretty much everything you need out with you. But if you do that, you are taking up inventory slots that you would otherwise fill with loot that you've acquired when you're doing a base. You can increase the carrying capacity of your inventory through skill upgrades, which I have done at this point. This was recorded some time ago, so I do have more capacity now, but at this stage space is at a premium. So I'm going to go back to base and
Looks like there is an orbital supply pod near you. It must be a gift from Orbis for exiles like you.
I'm going to craft some more of the radiation meds with these resources that I've collected. I'm going to bank some of the stuff that I don't need or that I acquired, and go back out. My base is placed as it happens near this orbital supply drop, so I get delivery now and then of materials, so that's also nice and helpful. And the timing on this one's pretty good. I do like the effects of these things. One thing I will say about Dysterra, which is not the case with all games, is that the hit registration impact when you're using the guns, even melee, it does feel and sound good. It feels like a good solid impact, and you get good feedback when you're hitting the targets, which is something a surprising number of games that are otherwise of high quality often don't do well, and it does impact your experience. It impacts it in a practical way and just in an aesthetic way, and in the way the game feels. So kudos to the devs for doing a good job there. So I have to sort all my gear, craft some new meds. I have the raw materials. These things take time, so I'm speeding this up. The hacking attempt, as you saw, failed, so my robot arm was on a cooldown timer. I believe, did it fail or did it not fail? Actually, no, it did not. The robot arm has a mechanic. It did fail, actually. So the robot arm has a mechanic where if you do fail, you're on a cooldown timer. There is a consumable that you can use, which will, those right there, you can see the three, which you can use, which will reduce that by a set amount. There are different tiers of that as well. There are tiers of pretty much everything, including consumables in the game. Batteries, the health, drinks, injection shots, and so on. Food is even has a tier system, and you can cut down the downtime by using higher tier consumables. I haven't really crafted any of those yet, so when I fail a hack, I have to wait a certain amount of time, and there is some gameplay there to deciding when to hack something and when not to, because the robot arm is the source of certain abilities like the dash and the heal for the protocols. If you were to use it and not wait for the cooldown to end and engage combat again, it could be a big problem. You will not be able to dash, and that can cause trouble. So pretty much have everything I need. I'm going to head back out to the Chemochamber. Now, mobs do respawn, and if you are going back without a weapon, or if you're inside the base already, progressed a certain depth inside, and then you're making your way back out, you have to be mindful of the fact that they couldn't spawn behind you. It does add a level of tension and some time pressure, which is kind of nice. I know some people have spoken about the respawning and not liking it, but I think it's acceptable, and it does add some gameplay. So I have no problem with that at all. Just got to be mindful of that. So this vehicle, of course, is one that I just picked up in the world. It's not crafted by me. The crafted vehicles have additional features. You can actually see on this one, there appears to be a slot on the roof, which looks like it would take a turret. And the crafted versions, you can actually see that filled. So going ahead back inside and take another crack at this. This is my first run at the Chemochamber, so I don't really know how the mechanics work. I don't know the layout. I was using low-tier weapons, and the results, were not stellar. So I'm going to apply one of my skill points to the anti-fracture condition skill node, which will help, when you take a hit from certain enemies, you get a fracture, and it causes your movement speed to go down. The higher the number of ticks or points in that condition, the slower your movement speed. And in fact, it can get pretty high. If you get, mobbed by a bunch of melee, you'll take multiple fracture hits, and that will stack and increase. So the shield has gone back up. I'm going to take it down again with melee and take another crack at this. The facility, for the most part, and most facilities are mirrored. They often have two entrances, but there are some parts of it which are not, and some of the facilities I've seen are asymmetrical. It is actually possible to get lost in the facilities. Okay, big boys. Oh, that's not good. Bad grenade toss there. One thing I realized after this this re-entry is that I was relying a little bit too much on the grenades. They do a lot of damage, but they do take time. You have to reslot your weapon, and they're not so great for moving targets. And I've switched to the wrong item on my bar. That was brutal. Like I said, the hit registration, it really does sound and feel good when you get hit. The death screen. So one of the things that's great about Dysterra is that they really do provide you with a lot of information. So as you can see from the death screen, it shows you where all the damage came from, damage done to you and their sources. There are other elements of the UI and the game system which track various bits of information as well. And it's extremely useful information for, making plans and knowing what's happening and why. So I gotta run back inside and try and grab my stuff. Fortunately, again, right near the entrance, and I did have to spawn down this time, so I'm able to get in and get out and re-gear. My gear is taking damage though each time I die. The durability is going down, and on repeated attempts, failed attempts, this could be a problem. So you can see the effects there. I do not have all that much in terms of my consumables, but it should be enough to take another crack at this. This gear that I have there is gear that I started with. I didn't actually craft this, but the durability will continue to go down. You can repair items in Dysterra. There's ways to repair it in the field, and there's also a workstation in the base that you can use to repair. Repair requires raw materials, and depending on the tier of the equipment, you might need materials of a specific tier. Those materials can be obtained in a number of ways. Again, using the game's really strong information system, you can right-click pretty much anything, and it'll tell you multiple things about the item. So where it can be obtained, where it can be crafted, if it can be crafted, and then what it is used for. And if you're able to source that material consistently, you can really get a lot done pretty quickly, because you just know exactly where to get it, go out, pick it up, and then make use of it. And it's a very good system. The same thing is true for mobs and the facilities. You can find out exactly where you need to go for something. The higher tier materials are limited in their availability, so they're only available from certain locations, and there's that promotes PvP in some respects. If there's only one source of a particular material on the map, and you have multiple people going for it, well, of course, they're going to run into each other, and that's going to be some conflict there. I will make another few attempts at this, and I think it's a learning experience, of course, and with better gear. I did complete this a second time, and it was so much faster with better weapons, but we'll get there. This is a learning process, and you want to show the mistakes as well as the successes for people to learn. Hopefully everyone's enjoying, and thanks for watching.